Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine.
As I report to you today, I'm not even mentioning to you the hellish night I went through last night. By 9:30 at night, we heard explosions in Kharkiv. And then about an hour and a half later, 3 missiles hitting in quick succession in a way that I've never heard before.
Joe Lindsley.
Joe Lindsley is quickly becoming an American treasure in broadcasting.
Welcome to Ukraine Bank.
Joe, with the outrage over the deaths in Gaza of the World Food Volunteers, you had to be thinking about how Russia has routinely been targeting rescue workers and civilians in Ukraine.
Bob, indeed. Good afternoon. I speak to you from Donbass, here at the edge, not so far from the front, in a place called Druzhivka. And yeah, I mean, this is it's been happening a lot lately. What they call double tap attacks. That was in Kharkiv City, where I've been based past several days. The rescue workers arrived to the scene of a drone attack, and moments later, as soon as most of the workers were there, yet more drones arrived and killed 3 firefighters in Kharkiv City. And when I hear about that, I think about an incident that happened not so far from where I speak to you now, over a year ago, before Bakhmut fell. There was a group of medics, mainly from the United States, and they were racing to the scene of a Russian missile strike in Bakhmut. I knew some of these people. And several of them were killed. There was a U.S. Marine veteran among them who was killed by that Russian strike targeting rescue workers. And this is done to demotivate people, to make it scarier for people to come here and help. That's their motive. But here we are 2 years in. Here I am in Donbass, in a place that is really, all of these cities here are cities at war. And everyone here is helping in some way for the victory effort. Including, say, the girls that are making the coffee for everyone to keeping them fueled. And you can always find great coffee in Ukraine. Although earlier today we were in the city of Izum, which has been so heavily hit, and there was no coffee there today, a rare exception because there was no water and power. And so and you see that this is the reality. I mean, everywhere you go, even in Kharkiv City, these past days, when I spoke to you yesterday, we had no electricity. I didn't even mention it because it becomes normal, and you just learn how to adapt. You carry, like I carry about 10 power banks sometimes to keep going. And everyone has, in the bathrooms, there are buckets of water for when there's no running water. Everyone just learns how to adapt, but you realize, life doesn't have to be like this. And this is simply because Ukrainians want to be free and people in the Kremlin don't want them to. And the entire nation of Russia goes along with it. And the rest of the world is, many countries are afraid to make a strong stance. I mean, we had the news once again today that Ukraine sent drones, it seems, to 2. They sent Ukrainian drones to 2 Russian air bases. And, this is what, Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State of the U.S., has been discouraging Ukraine even publicly from such strikes. But Ukrainians are doing this more and more and more because if they don't attack those bases, then they can't prevent attacks on a place like Kharkiv. And so they hit the bases that Ukrainians hit in the past 24 hours, really early this morning, included the bases from which they launched suicide drones upon Ukrainians and upon which they've been sending these glide bombs, sort of the new level of bombs that are arriving in Kharkiv City. And Ukrainians now are using their ingenuity to hit the bases and hit the planes that the Russians are using. So this is a good success story for Ukraine. While they try to get, better weapons. And, you realize, as today, so we're driving, leaving Kharkiv City, and you drive into the beautiful fields of Donbass. And the trees are still barren, but the green is sort of a psychedelic green in the fields. The soil is so rich. And so it's extremely beautiful. But then you look on the horizon and you see smoke in the distance. And you don't know if that's from Ukrainian fire or from the Russian invaders. You pass through destroyed and burned out villages like you're in some sort of, haunting fairy tale. And this is, this is the war. This is it. But you see the people who are standing, even smiling and cheerful. And we were driving through one of the cities near the front. And at that moment, the air raid alarm went off. And, it was in that city. It's a particularly haunting sound. And we had an American from Chicago actually traveling with us. And I was talking with my Ukrainian friend, and we were just, shooting the breeze and joking around, not skipping a beat, even as that air raid alarm sounds. And, it is sort of very surreal in that way, but that's where you see the spirits here. And one reason why I'm speaking to you from this place today, I'm standing in a park surrounded by these tall white birch trees, surrounded by several coffee shops, and everyone around me moving on these streets, I can tell, was working for victory in some way. And we just delivered a batch of anti-drone backpacks and drone jammers. Some of it's like stuff out of Star Wars. There's this box that costs $7,000, and you hold it up in the sky, and it can take out an incoming Russian surveillance drone. So really incredible technology, funded by listeners to WGN Radio, produced here in Ukraine, and we just passed it off to the soldiers today. And I made a video where they said thank you to Bob Sirott and WGN. We can play that on Monday. But that's what brought me here on this mission on a sunny day. We're under air raid alarm, but right now at the moment it's quiet. Although here, in Kharkiv, missiles can hit at any time. And here where I am, where we are within artillery range, which is an extra level of sort of, haunting fear at any moment. And I see that as I look at buildings around me. You see the destruction everywhere. And still people who keep going.
That's really something to hear about the help from people around Chicago who are listening to us. Before we let you go today, Joseph, I wanted to ask you about something that kind of surprised me. France's President Macron said yesterday that he had no doubt Russia would seek to disrupt the running of the Paris Olympics this summer. What would Putin get out of that? Do you think that is a realistic fear?
I think so. I mean, the Russians would try, in their quest for victory here, would try to disrupt anything that they can. I mean, they will have Russian and Belarusian athletes there. Maybe that was part of the International Olympic Committee's reasoning. Maybe it's safer to have some Russians there. I don't know. But I think what Macron is saying this publicly to make people aware of this possibility. But we look at the stories of the Havana syndrome, and more there's concerns about, how Russians could be operating around Europe and around the world. So I think it's more of a sense to be careful and alert. And speaking of that idea of being careful and alert, it's amazing that as I report to you today, I'm not even mentioning to you the hellish night I went through last night. By 9:30 at night, we heard explosions in Kharkiv. And then about an hour and a half later, 3 missiles hitting in quick succession in a way that I've never heard before. And I can't even count really how many. And in the night, up until, about 6 o'clock this morning, it was just, I heard it's hard to figure out what was a dream and what was real. The air raid alarms going off, actual missiles, hearing a garbage truck and wondering if it's a drone, or hearing a missile sound in your dream that's not real, or maybe it really was real. And as I was, going through all this and always waking up and checking my phone to see if there was, an attack on the way, if you have to, run, which happened a couple times last night, running to the shelter at least twice, as I remember it. And as I look at my phone to see the app, or, if there's news of incoming rockets, I would also see my notifications, my email notifications. And very interestingly, last night, we happen to get donations via PayPal. And every time someone sends a donation, it's like someone from Chicago or from Kansas or Texas, it'll say, Sally McCormick sent $25 or someone sent $500. And I saw these messages also during that night of madness as I'm seeing the notifications of incoming rockets. And it was like yin and yang. Like it was amid the fear, it was so great to see these little, people sending money to help. Even in this extreme moment, while the city I was in was under attack, to know that they were supporting us, even just to see, any amount, of course, and to know that people were caring in that moment, that was a great strength to get through that night last night. So thank you to everyone. We welcome support. You can follow us at UkrainianFreedomNews.com. Bob, you can know that, your name was mentioned here on the streets of Donbas City. Out of gratitude for this show and everything everyone does together.
Well, we're just so proud to have you as part of our broadcast. And a reminder that if you go to our website, WGNradio.com, on the Sirott Show page, we post Joseph's reports, the links, and you paint some fantastic pictures for us on the radio, but I can't wait to see the video of you walking around the park. And today, I think, Joe, you wrote a complete chapter of the book that I hope you will finish someday.
Bob, this is all right. When I get back to Kharkiv City tonight, I'll find an Irish pub and sit down and just write a chapter of this book.
All right. I hope you have a safe weekend. We'll talk to you Monday.
Until Monday. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Що сказав?
Well, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чиїй ти стороні?